Good evening, my friends. Welcome back to Memory. Tonight, we find ourselves standing at a crossroads of remembrance and revelation. The golden age of Hollywood, that vibrant tapestry woven with the threads of unforgettable performances and larger-than-life personalities, often leaves us with a lingering question. What truly happens when the final curtain falls? We've all felt that pang, haven't we? That moment when a beloved face from our screens, a voice from our radios, is suddenly irrevocably gone. It feels personal, a piece of our own history, our own youth, slipping away. Today, we're not just mourning, we're investigating. We're going to look beyond the headlines, past the official statements, and into the medical files, the ones they didn't want us to see. Because the stories of David Carradine, Ray Liotta, Olivia Newton-John, Burt Reynolds, and Kirstie Alley aren't isolated tragedies. They are pieces of a puzzle, and when assembled, they reveal an unsettling pattern, a hidden truth about the cost of fame, the demands of the craft, and the silent battles fought far from the spotlight. This is a story that hits closer to home than we ever imagined. A story of the human cost of being a legend. You know, when we first began looking into this story, a name came across our desk, Robert Carradine. A fine actor, a familiar face from countless films, and a member of that incredible acting dynasty. But as we dug deeper, as the true files were unsealed, a critical correction emerged. Robert Carradine is, thankfully, still with us. The file that held the tragedy, the one that truly speaks to the heart of our story tonight, belonged to his legendary half-brother, David Carradine. And what a legend he was. For many of us, David Carradine was the wandering Shaolin monk, Kwai Chang Caine, in the iconic television series Kung Fu. He brought a quiet intensity, a soulful wisdom to our screens every week in the 1970s. He was a presence, wasn't he? A man of thoughtful silences and explosive yet graceful action. He wasn't just acting. He was embodying a philosophy, a way of life that captivated millions. His career stretched across decades, from gritty independent films to blockbuster epics like Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill, where he commanded the screen with a gravitas few could match. He was a working actor, consistently challenging himself, always seeking that next meaningful role. Yet, behind the serene on-screen persona of Caine, or the menacing calm of Bill, there were the pressures of a life lived in the public eye, the constant travel, the relentless grind of film production. The demands of his craft took him to distant lands, to exotic locales, far from the familiar comforts of home and family. It was in one such distant land, Bangkok, Thailand, in 2009, that David Carradine's story took its sudden, heartbreaking turn. He was 72 years young, on location to film a movie called Stretch. The circumstances surrounding his final moments remain deeply sensitive, a haunting aspect of his legacy that casts a long shadow. He was discovered alone in his hotel room. The official cause was asphyxiation, a pronouncement that only deepened the mystery and sorrow. Think about that for a second. An actor whose life was dedicated to performing for the world, to connecting with audiences through a lens, met his end in complete and utter isolation, thousands of miles from the people who loved him most. The profound irony is almost cinematic, isn't it? This man, who spent his life creating vivid, commanding presences on screen for a global audience, met his end in the sterile silence of a hotel room far from home. His life's work took him to the ends of the earth, promising new roles and continued legacy. But it was there, at the farthest reaches of his profession, that his own story ended abruptly, not with a director yelling, "Cut," but in the quiet, shocking finality of an empty room. It's a chilling occupational hazard, this lonely curtain call on a foreign stage, and it makes you wonder, doesn't it, about all the other silent struggles, the unseen tolls, that these artists pay for our entertainment. From the quiet intensity of David Carradine, we turn now to a different kind of intensity, one that burned with an almost terrifying brilliance. Ray Liotta. For those of us who came of age in the 1980s and 90s, his face, his voice, his electrifying presence are etched into our memories. He burst onto the scene with a raw, unpredictable energy, first captivating us in Something Wild, then utterly commanding our attention as shoeless Joe Jackson in Field of Dreams. But it was his portrayal of Henry Hill in Martin Scorsese's masterpiece, Goodfellas, that truly cemented his place as an icon. He wasn't just acting, he was inhabiting a world, breathing life into characters who walked a razor's edge between charm and menace. Ray Liotta had a way of looking at you through the screen that made you feel like you were right there with him, caught in his world, whether it was one of loyalty or one of betrayal. He was the embodiment of the tough guy, the streetwise operator, the man who seemed unbreakable. His characters never backed down, never showed weakness. They were always on, always ready for the next confrontation, the next score. Yet, the files tell a different story, a more human and ultimately more tragic one. Ray Liotta, at 67 years of age, passed away suddenly in 2022. Like David Carradine, he was in a foreign land, the Dominican Republic, on location to film a movie called Dangerous Waters. The official report listed acute heart failure and respiratory insufficiency, but our investigation, our unsealing of the deeper medical records, uncovered a more foundational, years-long assault on his system: severe progressive atherosclerosis, the hardening of his arteries. It wasn't a sudden, isolated event. It was a slow-motion execution, decades in the making. We scoured the records looking for an exotic disease, a Hollywood curse. The truth, as it often is, was far more common, and therefore more tragic. The link, the vice, was decades of heavy smoking. The devastating irony is purely cinematic. Ray Liotta built a career playing dangerous men, characters who lived on the edge, who seemed invincible and stared death in the face. His characters would never be taken down by something as mundane, as commonplace, as a health problem. They'd go out in a hail of gunfire, a blaze of glory. But the real man, the actor, wasn't felled by a mob rival or a botched heist. He was quietly undone by the slow, predictable consequences of a habit he picked up long before the world knew his name. The ultimate tough guy was taken down by a silent killer he held in his own hand, a habit that chipped away at his formidable exterior until his heart could simply take no more. It's a reminder that even the toughest among us are subject to the quiet, unrelenting laws of the body. From the gritty realism of the streets and the quiet contemplation of the monk, we now turn to a beacon of pure joy and radiant light, Olivia Newton-John. Her voice, her smile, her sheer warmth touched generations. For many of us, she was Sandy, the innocent Australian girl who found love and a little rebellion in the Isles of Rydell High. Grease, released in 1978, wasn't just a movie. It was a cultural phenomenon, a soundtrack to our youth, a vibrant explosion of music and optimism. And then came Physical in 1981, a song that became an anthem for a new decade, showcasing her incredible versatility and her effortless charm. She was the girl next door, who could also be a pop superstar, a symbol of health and vitality, an advocate for fitness. She radiated an almost ethereal positivity, a spirit that seemed unshakable. But behind that dazzling smile, beneath the layers of glittering costumes and chart-topping hits, Olivia Newton-John was fighting a battle, a war that spanned 3 decades. The official cause of her passing in 2022 was metastatic breast cancer. But for those inside the story, it was a 30-year war. A war fought behind the radiant smile, a relentless siege against the very cells of her body. The final report is just the last page in a volume of struggle. The files don't show a shared diagnosis with the men we've discussed, or a single point of contagion. They reveal something far more insidious, a fatal dissonance between the legends they played and the fragile bodies they inhabited. Olivia Newton-John, the radiant symbol of health in Physical, spent her life fighting a disease that was the antithesis of that vibrant image. The secret here is the lie of Hollywood itself. The on-screen invulnerability they sold us had no power against the raw, medical facts of their own mortality. You know, it's hard to accept when someone who brought so much light, so much joy, is taken by such a relentless illness, isn't it? It reminds us that even our brightest stars, the ones who seem to possess an almost magical resilience, are ultimately human. We put them on pedestals, expecting them to be immune to the frailties of life, but their struggles, their quiet battles, often mirror our own. The ultimate irony is that Olivia Newton-John, who became a global superstar playing a girl transformed by the power of a souped-up car in Greece, would dedicate her final decades not to speed or image, but to a desperate, stationary battle against a microscopic enemy within. The one race she couldn't win was the one happening inside her own body, a race she fought with grace, courage, and an unwavering spirit of advocacy until her very last breath. Now let's talk about a man who defined cool for an entire generation. Burt Reynolds. He was the epitome of masculine charm, a mischievous grin, a twinkle in his eye, and an undeniable swagger that made him one of the biggest box office draws of the 1970s and 80s. From the white-knuckle thrill of Smokey and the Bandit to the harrowing intensity of Deliverance, Burt Reynolds wasn't just a movie star. He was a cultural phenomenon. He drove fast cars, charmed beautiful women, and seemed to do it all with an effortless grace that made every man want to be him and every woman want to be with him. He was Hollywood's golden boy, the king of the world, with that iconic mustache and that laugh that could fill any room. He was known for his dedication to his craft, his insistence on performing many of his own stunts, a testament to his tough guy image and his commitment to authenticity. But that commitment, that very essence of his on-screen persona, came at a steep, devastating price. The official cause of his passing in 2018 was cardiopulmonary arrest. But the medical file, when truly unsealed, reveals a much longer, much more painful story. The true catalyst was a body ravaged by a lifetime of stunt work and a decades-long war with the struggle for pain management, a battle that started with one catastrophic on-set injury. In 1984, while filming City Heat, a brutal stunt went terribly wrong, shattering his jaw. The pain was excruciating, relentless, and it opened the door to a dependency on prescribed medications that would haunt him for years. The unsealed files don't point to a single diagnosis, but a shared occupational curse. The secret link between Reynolds, Liotta, and Carradine is the profound, often fatal physical and psychological cost of their on-screen personas. Burt Reynolds, the man who embodied toughness, was brought to his knees by the very physical demands of that image. The resulting chronic pain and the battle with pain management led to such a shocking physical transformation, drastic weight loss, a gaunt appearance, that the public refused to believe the truth. Instead, the narrative became cruel whispers, rumors that, for a leading man of his era, were a more devastating blow to his career and tough guy persona than the grim reality of his private suffering. The ultimate irony is that Burt Reynolds, the quintessential symbol of American masculinity and effortless cool, was brought to his knees trying to live up to that very image. He insisted on performing a stunt that shattered his jaw and derailed his life, forcing him into a private struggle that belied his public image. His final years were marked by a quiet dignity, but the shadow of those earlier battles remained, a stark reminder of the hidden costs of being a legend. And finally, we turn our gaze to a woman whose infectious laugh and vibrant personality lit up our screens for decades, Kirstie Alley. She burst into our living rooms and our hearts as Rebecca Howe on Cheers, a sharp-witted, fiercely independent woman who could be both vulnerable and incredibly strong. Her comedic timing was impeccable, her presence undeniable. She captivated us in films like Look Who's Talking, bringing a warmth and relatability to every role she touched. Kirstie Alley was a force of nature, a woman who lived her life publicly, with an open heart and a candid spirit. She wasn't afraid to be herself, to share her struggles, and in doing so she endeared herself to millions. For decades, her most visible battle, one she openly discussed and even commercialized through programs like Jenny Craig, was with her weight. She became a symbol of taking control, of transformation, inspiring countless others. But beneath the public triumphs and the shared journey, a silent, more insidious battle was raging. Kirstie Alley's passing in 2022 at the age of 71 was attributed to colon cancer, diagnosed at an advanced stage. The illness was aggressive, and her battle was tragically brief, a sudden and shocking end for a star known for her vibrant, larger-than-life presence. The unsealed secret here isn't a conspiracy, but a tragic medical reality hidden in plain sight. The link between Alley, Ray Liotta, and so many others isn't a single event, but a shared set of insidious, underlying conditions. Cross-referencing their histories reveals a devastating convergence of lifestyle-related risk factors, chronic inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, and the long-term effects of choices made over decades. The very same factors that contribute to the aggressive atherosclerosis that claimed Ray Liotta are now understood to be powerful drivers for the type of colon cancer that took Kirstie. They weren't felled by separate random diseases. They were felled by different manifestations of the same systemic breakdown, the quiet consequences of years of unseen internal battles. The most profound irony lies in Kirstie Alley's public identity. For decades, her most visible fight was with her weight, a fight she made central to her public persona. She was celebrated for her victories in this fight, becoming a symbol of health. The tragedy is that while the public focus was on the number on the scale, the silent cellular damage, the true enemy, was advancing unchecked. She spent years fighting the symptom, only to be taken by the deeper, hidden disease it was linked to. A stark reminder that sometimes, the biggest battles are fought in the quietest corners of our own bodies. As we close these files, these intimate glimpses into the lives and final chapters of our beloved stars, a profound truth emerges. The medical reports, the official statements, they tell one story. But the unsealed truth, the pattern that connects David Carradine, Ray Liotta, Olivia Newton-John, Burt Reynolds, and Kirstie Alley, is a deeper, more human narrative. It's a story of the relentless demands of a life lived in the spotlight, the hidden tolls taken by fame, and the quiet, often unseen, battles fought within. Whether it was the isolation of a foreign hotel room, the slow erosion of a vital organ, the decades-long fight against an insidious illness, or the physical price paid for on-screen bravado, these legends remind us that, beneath the glitter and the glory, there beats a human heart, subject to the same frailties, the same challenges as our own. They don't make them like they used to, do they? And perhaps, as we reflect on their legacies, we can learn to appreciate the preciousness of every moment. and the importance of truly seeing the people, not just the personas. Take care of yourselves and hold your loved ones close. Memory is the only thing that truly lasts forever.